Good. What up, y'all? What up, y'all? Welcome back to another session of Join the Chat. This is the place where every single voice is important, where your voice matters, where your opinion needs to be reflected. We try to empower everyone to express themselves, and we try to provide a free and an open platform to speak and also to be heard. I am your host, moderator, Redford Mr. Bojangles. Along with me, I have Jiggy Gisley, and I got Andre with me. My brothers are in the house here tonight. Wagwan, what's happening, y'all?
It's good to be back with the Join the Chat family, you know?
Yeah,
And
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So tonight, I mean, we're gonna just jump right into it. I think I almost introduced every episode, and I say we're gonna jump right into it. But tonight, we're talking about freedom of speech and the price or the expense that those speech might cause. So first of all, let's just hit the thing, hit the topic, and talk about the definition. What does free speech mean to you, Ghislaine? What does free speech mean to you, Andre?
Wow, that's a very good question. My definition of free speech is, you know, it's being able to speak your mind to, but at the same time, yeah, it's just being able to speak your mind, but at the same time also being able to read the room. You know,
Mm,
because your speech, your what you're saying may offend other people, but you have to be able to speak your mind, but
yeah.
also read the room. And when I say being able to speak your mind, is there's no censorship.
Okay. What about you, Andre?
and
You
well,
you
it's
you, you touched on a lot of good points. You just we're gonna rally back to
My
those.
yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
Same.
Andre.
I share similar sentiments as Gislin, but freedom of speech for me is just when one is able to express oneself without feeling obstructed or feeling as if there's a barrier in preventing that one from truly and really expressing what's inside of them.
Okay, so how important is free speech, or how important is it to both of y'all that you're able to speak without any type of, I guess, retaliation or resistance? How important is free speech for you guys?
For me, free speech is very important because, as I say, it's one expressing oneself. And if I'm obstructed from expressing myself truthfully and to the best of my ability, I think I'm shortchanging the receiver, whosoever it is I'm trying to relay information to. So it's important for me to be able to be 100% Andre at all times. And if otherwise, I just think I'm not being my true self, and there, and it creates a sense of uncomfortness for me, in a sense I'm uncomfortable, and it's just something that's gonna irritate me because I didn't get to express myself or bring my point across. So it's very important for me to have that free
Have you ever
speech.
have you ever been in a situation where you felt that you weren't able to speak and you weren't your authentic self?
Yeah, there have been situations where I haven't, like with,
You want to share with us?
yeah, you have different scenarios. You have work, you have at home, you have socializing with
At
friends and stuff.
home.
Yeah, at home.
You can't be yourself at home.
No, no, no. You can express yourself without
Oh, you
offending other people.
can.
You can, yeah.
Oh,
So
okay,
there's
okay.
different levels. So at work, for example, you may be in a meeting. You may feel because of hierarchies or authorities, you may want to express yourself towards a manager or something. But because the person is a manager, you don't want, after you expressing that concern or whatever that issue is, you're afraid that it may impact you after the meeting is over, where the manager probably looking at you to see, as soon, like you're on a slip and slope now. As soon as Andrew mess up, maybe that person's gonna want to call you out and stuff like that. So sometimes it can be a hesitant in a workplace based on authority, and then in a social gathering too. Sometimes, nowadays I think we're societal expectations sometimes influence the social gathering. So maybe I want to freely express my view, maybe on a religious topic, for example. And some people may feel offensive to say that, oh, we're discussing religion and stuff like that, or spirituality, when they think it's more should be a individual thing where you probably keep it to your house or stuff like that. So sometimes I feel obstructed in that sense, and I've experienced that. And then the common one where I want to express like our love for females and stuff like that, and then the colorful people feel offended and stuff like that. So that happened too.
All right. Just like, what about you, brother? How important is freedom of speech for you?
It is very important. It is very important for me because um, where I'm from, um, in Burundi, in Africa, like there's right now there's no freedom of speech. If you go against the government, if you even say the truth, especially if you are within the country, it's gonna be like, you can either end up dead or you can end up like in jail. So it is very important for me, and you have to speak up your mind. Like, I don't know, it's also like, if you don't say something, if you don't express yourself, or what's hurting you, or what's actually choking you, what's making your life not be easy, it's then you're actually, if you cannot speak up, then you're dying, so you have to speak up. You have to be, for me it's very important, like freedom of speech has to be there.
Fair enough. All right. So we are in Canada, and the Canadian Charts of Rights and Freedoms guarantees the right and freedom set out in its subject only to such reasonable limits prescribed by the law as can be demonstrably justified in a free and democratic society. Number two in the Charter of Rights and Freedoms are our fundamental rights, and everyone has the following fundamentals of freedoms: freedom of conscience and religion, freedom of thought, belief, opinion, expression, including freedom of the press and other media communications, freedom of peaceful assembly, and freedom of association. Now, these are what Canada models themselves after. In America, they have the First Amendment, and the First Amendment writes the same thing with, freedom is the Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. So it almost seems like freedom of speech is to protect our speech against government. Is it, do you guys feel that it's the same type of threshold, individual to individual?
No, it's not the same threshold between individual to individual. It's yes, in the spirit of the law of the letter as you just read it, it's there, right? But once it comes to you're talking about work, for example, like once you get to work, there are some. I wouldn't say there are some, depending on like who you. It's not even who you with, but based on your. I think the threshold is not the same if you're a black or a minority
Why
compared,
not?
compared to a white person. And this isn't within Canada, by the way. So I don't think like on the law it says yes, we are all free to express ourselves, but the threshold is not the same.
Andre, you have any comments on that?
No, I don't think it's any different in the individual perspective. Again, individual how? Do I randomly meet someone in the street and try to have a conversation in that sense, or is this individual someone from my circle like I socialize with, someone I know before? So it's different. So probably with someone I know or familiar with, I don't think there should be any form of threshold, any barriers to prevent us from talking with each other. But random someone, person, or again at the workplace, you just have to be mindful because again, there's always consequences of what you say and may say, and then someone may take it the wrong way and pass it on to the third party, like a manager saying, "Oh, well, Andre was expressing himself in this manner, and I don't think it was right." So you have to be mindful of where you are in these days, just because of the consequences that can happen. Some people lose their job. Some people may write and say they're offended. And the thing is, I may not want to intentionally offend someone, but then again, I can't control how someone feels. So maybe they're really offended. So after just at the end of the day, be mindful of the consequences that can come. But if it's someone in my circle or someone who I know, for example, I don't think I'm gonna ever like hold back on what I want to say to that person. To be honest with you, but at the workplace, I have to be mindful at the workplace. It's just different there.
So tell me, how
Like,
would go ahead, Jason.
sorry, one thing that I wanted to say, we have to, and I think we're gonna get to this point, especially nowadays. We have social media, like and everybody can express themselves, right? But I think we have to make a clear distinction between freedom of speech and just making noise. Because
Okay.
like like you're reading about how what is freedom of speech in Canada, how it's considered. But when you are free to speak, and I think the first thing you have to realize is the person you're addressing your message to, you have to acknowledge they are different, right? And they are different. They have different point of views. They have different ways of lives, right? Of living. And
Right.
I think there's some people, like there are a lot of people that just like uh, speak up, and they actually equal that they think that is freedom of speech, but it's not freedom of speech. It's just making noise, right?
So,
Uh,
okay, so I think that's a great place that we can get on. So, one person's freedom of speech is another person's. You're just making noise. So, doesn't that, even if that person is making noise, don't aren't they entitled to make noise the way that they would like to make noise? If that's what is true to them, if that's how they want to express themselves. You were talking earlier about being able to express oneself. If that's their way of expressing themselves, do they not have a platform, an avenue to be able to do that?
that's a good point. And I always say this: anytime that you open your mouth, especially when you're talking to someone, let's forget about friends. Friends, you know each other. But let's say right now I'm expressing myself. Anytime that I open my mouth and I'm talking, I'm also exposing myself in a sense of I'm exposing myself in a sense of like I'm ignorant. Do you understand? Because we tend to say stuff because we think we know, but when we start speaking, whether
Yeah,
it's on
yeah.
or like talking or writing, we are exposing ourselves in a sense of like we might be ignorant of a subject.
Now,
We
do you
might
think?
be ignorant, and then some people forget about that. I can say, okay, I am African, you guys are Caribbeans, right? I may say something about you guys Caribbean and say, hey, Caribbeans are like this because this is what I've
Your perception.
my perception.
Yeah.
But when I say that, I have to be willing to accept that I'm talking to you guys. You are gonna give me another perspective that's gonna clear my ignorance. I don't know if you understand that.
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, but I think that is a mind state that you have though as well because you're open to being educated or open to like get the knowledge of what things could be. Not everyone's like that.
I don't think it's being open. It's just knowing that anytime that you say something, you are actually I wouldn't say liable to the words that you're saying, but make sure know that at the same time you're opening your, you are speaking, you're telling your truth, or you are actually making your um what is it? You're thinking clear. Make
Right.
sure understand that there's gonna be one day a person who's gonna give you a different perspective, who's gonna educate you. And a lot of people, when I say it, like a lot of people make noises, is because they get educated, but they don't want to take that education, and they just keep repeating the same. Sorry to curse, same shit.
Yeah.
I'll get you.
I think what Jason trying to say basically is if I'm just here standing up, not talking or anything, you're just judging a book by the cover. You don't know what's really inside of the book. But until that person speak, that's when whatever is inside is start to show. So you could look at me and say, "Yeah, Jerry's all cute and nice," yeah. But as soon as I talk, you probably get a different perspective. So by speaking, you're painting a picture of who you are. Basically, I think what Jason is trying to say from that. That's what I
No,
believe.
yeah. So one of the main reasons why this topic came about was the whole Dave Chappelle fiasco from a couple of weeks ago, and he had this stand-up routine, and he already said it was going to be his last one for a little while, and then like social media just went crazy talking about they need to cancel him, and he offended a certain group, he offended the LGBT group or the transgendered group, and people were calling for his shows to be canceled and removed from Netflix. And it was like I think the show was like an hour and a half or something like that, almost 2 hours. It was a pretty long series, but it was like the context of what he was saying was taken so out of context. But because of certain things, now people feel a certain way, and same way he has freedom of speech, quote unquote, to do his stand-up show. Now these other individuals are exercising their freedom of speech to get him removed. This is kind of where the topic came from. I'm not sure if you guys heard about the situation or not. Let
Oh
me
yeah.
know. Yeah. So what is your take on it, or do you even have an opinion?
What really happened? I kind of it's so you see the things on YouTube, the titles and stuff. So I kind of have an idea what Dave Chappelle was doing. But what really happened? What really going?
Well, I'll let Jason jump on it.
So go on Netflix, watch The Closer from Dave Chappelle. That is the last stand up he made, which is part of his contract with Netflix. I think it was he had to make six shows, six stand up, six specials, and the last one about it's called The Closer, which is the last one part of his contract. And then he mentions about LGBTQ, but especially the way he picture it. You have to watch until the end. Um, do you want me to spoil it for you, or do you want me to let you watch it?
No, we're talking, man. We're joining the chat, so I'm in
All
the
right,
chat.
okay. So he talks about the LGBTQ community, which he has been talking on his previous specials, and he's been attacked for it. But on the closer, what he's trying to talk about until you will hear until the end is this: the LGBT. He respect the LGBTQ, but at the same time, he actually put the spotlight on them in a sense of like, they have been victimized, but they at the same time they have people of color, black people who have been for centuries, you know for centuries we've been victimized, and there are some of them that are part of the LGBTQ or whatever, but when it comes to race, the LGBTQ closes their eyes, basically. So that's what he's talking about. But as Ren said, there are some bits that are taken out of context, and they started saying like canceling him. But that's on social media, by the way. So the which what I say like it's on on social media because right now I think he's on tour and all his shows that are booked right now.
Oh yeah, he's going to sell out though. He's Dave
He's already
Chappelle.
selling
End of
out.
story.
He's
Yeah.
already selling out. The only problem, actually, a couple of days ago, I saw that he was on IG on Instagram. He was saying that there's a video he released on during one of his tour. He was saying like because he has another movie, kind of like documentary, he wanted to release. So because of that special, some of the Hollywood distributors that were willing to distribute his documentary now they're actually canceling him. They are kind of like stepping aside away because they are because of what's happening right now. But I feel like personally to go back to your question, Ren, he was genius, man. I watched the whole thing. I actually watched it twice. He was for me it was like you have to watch it from the beginning until the end. And if someone got offended by it, hey, try to listen to the message. Try to listen to the message. And this is funny though, because we're talking about freedom of speech, but yet you hear some people wanting to cancel him.
Hmm.
So it's
Right.
like someone, so they are free to speak, but they want to put a limitation on some people on who can speak.
Hmm.
You see, that's the thing that we
Double
talk about
standard.
the cancel culture. It's like I don't know. I'll let you continue, but we can expand on that.
Well, see, I didn't really watch the Dave Chappelle series, but I don't know if it was the same show it was talking about the rapper,
The
the
baby.
baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and there's some sentiments that I hold with him in that sense because when you look at it, you can sing about the grimiest or the most gruesome crime ever and visualize it in your art in your music, and we listen to it and it's all just music, entertainment. But yet you could even sing about burning up church, burning up mosque, synagogues to slide. It's just music, free speech, whatever. But why, when you talk on a certain topic, some people that the letters of the alphabet people they feel real offended, like they take it to art, and it's not no, they're just doing that since social media is popular. They've been doing it with, for I only can speak what I know of, like with the dancehall genre from like when I was a kid growing up and I would hear, oh, they're outside of the club protesting. In my head as a kid, when I read it in the Star, in the Gleaner, and I read it, I'm like, really? People protest outside the show for the artists like Sizzla and them when they go perform. This is in the 90s, yeah? Social media wasn't there, so I couldn't visualize it in the sense of the TV, but in my head, it was hard to paint the picture because as a kid, I'm like, but they only sing one song, or maybe they have one song that's homophobic in the sense. That's one song, and people really go about it like that overseas and stuff. And now they're still doing the same thing. So regardless of that, I don't think the whole is standard good enough to say, okay, what's freedom of speech? As just Gislin said, is like there's a limitation to it. But the fact that I can sing about the most gruesome crime and talking about someone's sexuality or against someone's sexuality is like you guys put more value on someone's sexual orientation
Well, I
versus
don't.
life itself. Because if I'm
Yeah.
pro gay or defending the LGBT whatever it is, that mean I'm for them and people rights and this and that. But to sing or glorify about the most gruesome crime or whatever it is, committing massacre and stuff like that. It shows that we really don't value life in its purest form. Because by doing that, we have to admit that okay, then this person think that who is he offended? This person's
But is that the issue though? Like, isn't the issue the fact that something has happened, a song was made, or a depiction was made about that particular group, and they don't like it,
yeah,
and they're gonna rally, they're gonna petition, they don't feel comfortable with it, so now they want to ensure that they don't have to hear this rhetoric. So the same way that they're fighting for people not to speak out against them, are the masses also fighting against the gruesome things that they see on TV and the gruesome things that they hear in the media. I don't think those other groups are really fighting for that platform to say, "Hey, let's get rid of that music. Hey, let's get rid of that TV show."
But the thing is,
They are fighting because they're believing that that offends them.
but the thing is, most of the people who talk against the violence, do they have a platform? What platform is it?
But
Doesn't the
why?
church doesn't the church speak against violence and stuff like that?
But again,
But
platform.
again, but again, the mainstream media may not highlight it. The mainstream media is gonna highlight the letters of the alphabet people. At the end of the day,
But
cause
the,
there's a section, yeah.
yeah, but I don't
Go
know if
ahead.
the media is necessarily shining a light on them, but they're using the media to get their platforms forward. And
But
I'm not trying to have the debate against like
you know,
LGBTQ versus Black Lives Matter versus Asian Lives Matter versus Indigenous rights. Like
I,
I'm not doing
I
all of
don't think
that,
for
but I'm
me.
just saying that the platform, like they're using the platforms that are at their disposal to make change for the better
I
of their
think
particular group.
the thing
who
that
though?
Who?
right.
Who, like for example, who? Like who behind? As I said, from the '90s, I was hearing it as a kid. Artists going to Switzerland, Lithuania, or America, wherever it is, they're protesting outside. Yeah. So
Yeah.
who is this? For example, we could say, okay, the government don't want us to do something or prohibit something. You could understand, yeah, that's the government. But which group, like even the Black Lives Matters, who really is behind it to say they're doing this agenda or pushing this again or opposing this or this is what we're gonna protest again? Who is that? Like when you said the
Well,
LGBT, when you
well,
just say like the LGBTQ feel offended and they have a platform to utilize. Who
yeah.
who who, who is behind it? Who is them? Like who do that? Who
I
does
don't
that?
know.
I
I
don't
don't
even
know,
know.
but all I know is that
It's
they're
an
there,
invisible hand.
right? But I know that
Yeah.
they utilize the platforms. I know other groups don't necessarily have the strength, the backing, the supporter, the solidarity to be able to push. Anyways, we getting off topic because this is supposed to be about
Hold on.
freedom of speech.
Before
Go ahead,
hold on,
Gislaine.
hold on. Sorry, one thing that I want to say. When we go back to the LGBTQ community versus Dave Chappelle, for me, it wasn't that he was not even attacking the LGBTQ. He was just saying, "Hey guys, it's still about at the end of the day, although you've been victimized, at the end of the day, it's still an issue with the race, in a sense of all these people who are saying like cancel Dave Chappelle. If we check within the LGBTQ community, just before his special, for the last few years, there have been so many transgender women being killed, right? And many of them, guess what? They are black or Latino, right? But yet, we've ever heard like with it's rare that I'm sorry to say this. When I'm checking the news, it's rare that you hear the LGBTQ. They're gonna be like, "Hey, transgender are being killed and whatsoever," but they don't put the emphasis that, hey, those people are getting killed. It's also based on the color of their skin. So when he comes and he talks about it, when you watch the special, and I think there's one section he says, they're gonna talk about LGBTQ, they're gonna be like, oh, I'm gay, whatever. But when it comes to being white or black, they'll say, hey, the white in them is gonna wake up. So this is being exposed. And I'm gonna come back again. It's funny because we're talking about freedom of speech, but yet we want to cancel someone.
Yeah, yeah. 100%. Now, I watched the episode too, right? I watched the show, and my takeaways are a little bit different than yours, Ghislaine. And I don't think it's one against the other. I think he actually draws a comparison onto society, and says like we're in a society where it's like hurting the feelings of somebody of the LGBT community has more of an effect than the murders and the deaths of people in the African American community, right? I think it was just the outrage that is not happening on one end, but is happening on the other. And it's just like somebody's life is dying over here, feelings are being hurt. Juliana Leo's up in the chat here today. She says it's easy to have a voice over social media. That's why we see it and we live in a sensitive world. People need to be aware if they want a voice, others have the same right. And I think that's exactly where we're trying to segue to, right? Like at the end of the day, we all have something that we want to say. right? And so if I want to speak and I want to have a position where I want somebody to listen to me, I have to also listen to others and hopefully get educated. SCB was here earlier saying making noise is dangerous, especially when you aren't talking factual information. It's important to make a disclosure when you're talking nonsense. I'd love it if people who are going to speak nonsense to me made a disclaimer that I could just lock off my ears and give myself some valuable time. But that ain't happening. But what do you guys think about that? So the freedom of speech is great, right? You both are saying that freedom of speech, being able to express yourself, being able to say what you want to say is very important to y'all. So, how are you two gentlemen able to receive opposing opinions when they come around you?
Hmm. Actually, I embrace them. I embrace them because I'm like when I'm talking to someone like the way I'm talking to you, gentlemen, right now. Even like the comments we're getting right now, it's I'm there to, as you say, like open my mind, getting educated. So anytime that I'm discussing with someone, especially if I know we are on the opposites, and especially if they know they're not making noises, if they're there to share, like, we are sharing opinions, ideas, knowledge, then I'm all good.
Well,
I'm
how
all
many
good.
times do people you're saying as long as they're not making noise, right? Like for the most part, when people speak, they feel like what they're saying is important, what they're saying is valid, and what they're saying is right. I rarely speak to people who are just speaking straight nonsense unless they just really want to speak nonsense. But
If they're speaking nonsense, I won't lie to you, Ren. I have like a little switch in my brain. I kind of lower down my level of IQ, and I just put myself in the same level. And I
Switch.
call it. I call it. I'm sorry to say this. I call it the sports banter. I can be on that sports banter, where it's just okay. Let's just go on that level. But we're not going anywhere. Let's make noise, all of us.
what about you, Dre? How do you take it when somebody has an opposing opinion to what you're speaking about? And and like you really feel wholeheartedly in your heart that what you're saying is facts, is true, everyone should know it, but then other people are saying something different. This is gonna be good. Go ahead, Dre.
To be honest, I've had people have suggestion that make statements that I oppose, and we just learn to you call it agree to disagree. But there's one topic that I will never conform to. You know what I mean? And it's just who I am. I will never accept that someone is born gay or something like that. I will never accept stuff like that. You know what I mean? And they can go ahead. I just that's just there's a certain law of nature that I just accept more than certain man-made law. But those are laws that I just don't think is. I just can't see you're gonna win me in a conversation with that to justify how you get to that means. I don't care if you want to tell me about your past or you grew up and all of that stuff. Is like, no, you need a balance, my friend. And life is a balance. You know what I mean? You can't have unbalance and expect to get justice. It's just not sit with me. But other than that, there's been topics that we discussed that I've opposed, and then I learned to agree to disagree. And sometimes they actually change my mind. People have actually changed my mind from certain. My wife changed my mind from certain thinking too.
I was
You
just
know what I
about
mean?
to ask that. So when you talking with your wife and you're trying to say something and she's like, yeah, she ain't having it. So you just agree to disagree and move on.
Repeat. Me never
So
catch it.
when you
Yeah,
are with your wife
yeah,
and you are saying something
yeah,
that you believe is very, very true, and she
yeah.
has an opposing opinion, are you trying to tell me that you just agree to disagree?
No, we talk until we come to whatever point you're trying to make. We kind of
Yeah,
probably take a 5 minute and calm down so one can calculate and put their thoughts together.
she ain't
And
got
then
5 minutes to we need to go. She's out the door. She needs like there's no 5 minutes. So what are you doing? You agreeing with her? Are you gonna drop the point? You're gonna accept her
no,
opinion? What are you
if
saying?
it's
I'm doing a
no
little bit of marriage
again,
counseling here, Andre.
if it's something to the core that I believe, I'm just gonna stand by my own. And again, majority of the time, we always come to a common ground. Majority of the time, for example, my wife is more lenient to the she believe in them. Listen to LGBT and giving to that. Okay, I understand. But in our core,
No,
she
I'm
doesn't
talking
believe.
about a
Whereas with
personal
me, I
thing
just can't
between.
tell you I
I'm talking about
believe
a
and I
personal
understand.
thing.
I just
I'm talking
can't
about a
say.
personal thing between you and your wife. You have to take out the garbage, and
Yeah.
you're like, babes, I'm gonna do it in the morning. She's like, yo, do it now. You need to do it at the night before. because the morning's gonna come. You're gonna sleep in, and what are you trying to say? So are you gonna agree to disagree? She thinks it's more important the night before. You want to do it the morning of. What are you doing in that situation, Andre? What do you do?
I'm telling you,
We need
man,
to know.
we come to the common ground. Okay,
Yes.
babe,
What
you
is
want
the
to do it in
common
the
ground?
morning?
I'm asking you what
Come
are you
on,
doing?
girl.
Because there's only
What
two
we do?
choices. Either you're taking out in the morning or you're taking out in the night, like she asked you to. So what are you doing?
The common ground is gonna
There's
take the
no comment.
Yeah,
trash
yeah.
and then leave it at the door. That is the common ground. Let me tell you.
No, man. We always try to come to an understanding. To be honest with you, like there's no disagree to agree with when it comes in terms with my wife. To be honest, because to be honest, with a wife, there's a difference between someone outside the home trying to agree to disagree. Because with her, that means we believe in a lie, then, so to speak. Because at the end of the day, inside of my head, I'm like, I'm thinking this particular way, and then I'm gonna act that particular way. So when we go down tomorrow and the same problem presents itself, it's just because from that discussion we never come to a common ground to say this is what it is. So
Mhm.
it's hard to agree to disagree with her in that sense, to be honest. But people in the
So you're
street,
taking
brothers,
out the
sisters,
garbage at night. That you're taking out the
yeah,
garbage at night.
yeah, I'll take the
So
garbage out in the
Bridget,
night.
you couldn't have just said that 5 minutes ago.
Say it no, man. Me take out the garbage in the night. When me
we,
take out the
we,
garbage
we,
in the night,
we've
feed me
come to an
now.
agreement.
Yeah, cause when I come back inside, me want something. Remember, I threw out the garbage a while ago. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Oh man, oh man, oh man. Yeah. This is Join the Chat. We are here with my brothers Andre and my brother Jisley. We just talking about freedom of speech. How much does it cost? Do y'all feel that if you say too much at sometimes, the consequences to that are too great, so it stops you from saying things? Do
Yeah, that
you
you should ask about
feel
my wife. That you should ask about my wife now. Yeah, I will shut up. Consequences. Yeah, it's I mean there's difference outside the hub, but in that term, no. Cause again, I can be blunt, I can be outspoken, and sometimes it offend people. For example,
You know?
for example, yeah, I saw a guy at work, well, at his house. I went to his house to do a job, and I'm like, "Oh, you're Italian, yeah?" He's like, "Why? Oh, you know?" I'm like, "Oh, your name is Tony, and you're short." It, and to her, it's like, Dre, why would you say something like that? People get off. But I'm like, but it's what it is. But if she's there, I would never, ever think of saying something like that because she would probably show it. Maybe the person don't feel offended, but the way my wife would react, they're probably like, yeah, you shouldn't have said that, guy. So when I'm around her, I'm very mindful of what I say in expressing myself about people, to be honest with you. I
So
must
she
say
needs
that
to be
one.
around you more often to make sure that she has your lips on manners.
Somewhat, maybe. But she's not coming to work with me.
You need some
Uh,
filters.
Jisley, have you ever felt that consequences for something that you're gonna say is not worth what you want to say, so you
Of
just don't
course,
say
of
anything?
course, of course. Especially when it comes to work or not even work. It's like sometimes you are with your friends, not even friends. Like you're organizing something. I think that's what I said earlier. You have to read the room. And then there's one quote that I like. It's like you have to choose your own battle, man. Sometimes you're just gonna say stuff. You might be right, but the consequences they're not worth it, right? But you also have to. I would say this: choose the time and the space, and even the way you not express yourself, but you make your message across, right? If not, hey, consequences are gonna be bad because the person who you're talking to, maybe they're not ready at that time, right? They're not ready at that time, or it's like, hey, it's I don't know. It's you have to choose select the time, but there's always consequences to what you say.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Fair enough.
Always.
Yeah, there always is. Man, like there's a difference between, I guess, truth being told about somebody and then like the image of a person. So like sometimes somebody will say something that might be true, but then the image gets distorted, right? So they'll say something that is true to them, but then now you turn around and you judge them or you look at them a certain way because of what they've said. Is that a fair thing to do?
So repeat again your question.
The question is, in terms of somebody saying the truth about something
Mhm.
and then their image being affected based on the truth, their truth that they have said. Is that something that you've seen?
Yeah, it was in a song. The truth hurt. Who can take it off his blurt? Round
Run
left,
left
you
your
know,
pants
pants
on
on the
shirt,
skirt.
and say
You
the
don't sing the
truth
truth
hurt.
hurt. All right.
Are you
Yeah.
getting the garbage out?
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh?
Are you being told to
Yes.
get the garbage out?
No. To be mindful of what I'm saying. But yeah, to be honest, if someone speak the truth, even to me, like it's just
Sure.
the truth. So people tell me the truth sometimes and it hurt, but inside of me is like, damn, that person is right, or you know. But on the surface, I may not show it, but I've never seen where somebody speak the truth and I kind of like, or I don't remember off the top of my head where someone tell me necessarily the truth and it's a hard truth to swallow, and I I oppose or try to justify it or try to defend it. Never. You know, and I can remember some of the most vivid one, especially from my mother. I think my mother told me some of the most truthful things ever. That wasn't pleasant, but it's just the truth, you know. And to be honest, I even live to see myself get older and hear her voice saying it, and I'm like, I outgrow it and can say she was talking truthful. And I'm glad she did. You know, even my aunts, they like when they correct you and say like you're rotten, you're rude, they say that it's the
But
truth, but
does your image of your aunt change when they tell you that truth, that thing that you don't want to hear? Does that change? Does the image of them change? Because
no.
we have it right now with celebrities, right? A celebrity will be put in the spotlight. They're the best thing, best singer, best athlete, best this that. Then they'll go and they'll make a comment or a soundbite will be heard, and then all of a sudden now endorsements are gone. All of a sudden now they can't play the game or they can't tour, and then their image gets tarnished based on the thing that they said, even though what they said could have been true.
Oh, in terms you ask me a question, I'm gonna answer. Like for me, say I was being disciplined by an aunt. My person at the time as a kid, yeah, I look at them as mean, miserable, you chat too much, all of that stuff. But as I said, the thing is, sometimes things happen 2 days when you're older, it grow on you and you realize, oh, that's what this person was saying. And it make you become more appreciative of them and sure that this person did have my interest at heart. And it comes now even to my marriage now where my wife tell me something sometimes like, oh, it's a hard truth, but I don't look at her like, oh, she's like what I would said back then about my aunt, oh, you chat too much or you this or you that. I don't look at it that way. I'm just like, yo, this person is just real because I remember my experience where my aunt was being real and my uncle was being real. I know that that person have my interest at that. So all that does now is prepare me for now, the moment I'm, as an adult where if my wife says something to me that's truthful, I'm not gonna bash her or look at her like again as she chat too much or mind your own business. I just look at it that this person have my interest at heart. That's why they're telling me the truth. And
But that's
majority of
somebody that's
hmm?
somebody close to you. That's somebody close to you, right? Somebody that
Yeah.
you love near and dearly. What about a stranger on the street?
But how a stranger in the street gonna tell me the truth about myself? They
Lord have
don't know
mercy,
me.
your face just neck up, man.
Yeah, because they don't know me. So how a stranger gonna come and tell me
But
unless
they don't have to know you to tell you the truth.
like there's what they're gonna tell me like, oh, you're well tired.
Yeah, you know
That's not
what?
gonna
It's happened to me one time when like somebody I can't even remember exactly how the story goes, but I know I was downtown, and they approached me in an aggressive way, and right away my reaction was to like be defensive and like, yo, get out of here. And then when I turned around, I just realized that the person was warning me about something that was ahead of me, and not to fall into that trap because they just came from there and they're trying to warn me, but the way they did it wasn't in a way that I respected at that time. But it was like, oh, they were right. And then once I realized that they were just trying to help me, like I felt so ashamed inside because I was like, man, I didn't have to attack them like that. I didn't have to respond that way. Like they were just trying to help. So that's like a truthful thing, but it changed my image of them. I thought they were against me when they were really for me, just because of the manner, and then it ended up being a help. So
oh
I still keep getting
But,
them.
to be honest, oh go ahead, Jizzy.
sorry about the truth. Like, I don't know, man. You have to, in the Bible they say the truth shall set you free,
Set you
right?
free. Yeah.
I always look at it this way. There's some stuff you're gonna tell to a stranger or a friend. You have to think about, is it gonna impact their life in a good way, or you just being an asshole oh me, I'm saying, oh, I'm not being an asshole just to show them like, I'm telling them the truth, because sometimes we tell the truth to people, and it's not the right time. They're not willing. It's not like they're willing to understand, but is it just to telling them the truth so I can show them that I'm right, but it's not impacting their lives? Or am I saying the truth and I know when I'm talking about it, like whatever I'm gonna say, it is true. It's gonna maybe not at the moment they're gonna judge me, and at that point I don't care. But I know in the future it's gonna stay in their mind, like when they see the action. So I think whenever you say the truth, you're gonna be judged, but also take your know when to use it. It's like when you have cards, when you're playing cards, there are some cards even if you have them, you can play the Joker anytime you're gonna win, right? But is it the right time to use it? Is it isn't?
Really? So you're talking about being strategist?
Yeah,
But
it
Yeah.
is.
but to be honest, it's earlier when I was saying about the stranger, I think it was more something truthful in terms of your characteristic or something like that. I never know it was something like something more physical outside of the thing. For example, like a traffic car. I've seen where something happened same way where the road was closed. It happened to me just recently, and I was trying to tell the person you have to U-turn, and they were looking at me like whatever. And then they go up and they turn back and they're like, "Oh, thank you." So I understand that sense, but I thought you meant in the sense of a stranger coming to tell me like, you're a bad person, like you don't know me. I thought that's what you meant when you're telling me the truth. Like I don't listen what people really like literally don't know me to say, like it's just invalid. But in terms of something like that where somebody's like, oh, something's ahead, yeah, I do listen in that sense.
I
But
feel you. All right. So do y'all feel like the cancel culture or canceling somebody's speech is the right mode? And I don't want us to delve into this as deep as we can. Probably this will be the last point for the night. But is canceling somebody's speech the right thing to do just because you don't agree with it? And you can talk about examples and all of that.
to be honest, Rennie, I just think everybody should be allowed to say whatever it is they want to say. That's universal free speech. I don't believe there's free speech in Canada and a US version and a UK version. Free speech is just free speech right across the board. That's just how I feel. And I never oppose any of the LG, whatever people. If they want to say they talk, they can't even say they talk. That's how I really feel. But don't try to be the one to policing people, justify what they can't say. Like, who are you to tell people that? But free speech should just be free to say whatever it is they want to express. It's free to say.
You know
Cheryl
what?
Archer, hold up. Cheryl Archer is in here, and she's telling us that freedom out of style, forget the speech. She must be from Yard.
That should be a slogan, man. That should be a
Juliana's in
slogan.
here too in the chat telling us that judgment is reality. We all do it, hopefully not meaning to, but unfortunately, it's human nature. I mean, good comments in this section here today. Thank you for every Hortense Henry. Some people use freedom of speech and talk crap. So, that's it, right? Like some people are gonna say, "Well, it's my right to say whatever I want about you, Andre." So before you were saying, "Oh, some stranger's gonna tell you that you're a bad person," and you don't care, or they shouldn't be able to say that to you. But hey, it's my freedom of speech. Don't have a right to tell you how you know unattractive and
True.
ignorant and
No, no,
bad
they,
mind and
no, they can. That's no, you didn't hear. No, I said they can tell, but it wouldn't matter to me because at the end of the day, it's like I don't, you know what I mean. So I'm not saying you can't say it, but it wouldn't affect me for me to get defensive and come at you to be like, okay, bye, Felicia, you know.
But people have to understand, like in French, there's a saying. I'm going to translate in English. It says, "Empty barrels."
empty
But
barrel
it
make
makes
the
the
most
most
noise.
noise.
Yeah, man, we have that. We have that in English too.
English
Just
too.
Oh, my bad.
not just
Sorry.
a French. You're trying to put like claim on the phrase, man. We have that too.
Yeah,
My
man.
bad. But like it
And
is because where as I've been saying, some people are gonna talk crap. They pull like under, they put like a ribbon and they call it freedom of speech, but it's just crap and they're just
But,
empty
but what
barrels.
makes
They're
but
not,
what makes it okay for you to say what they're saying is crap if that's what they truly believe?
and it's gonna come. Uh, because is it?
Because they're doing the same thing to you at the end, right? They
No,
turn around and saying what you're saying is crap, so they're going to dismiss it.
because okay, when someone is talking, right, and the more they talk, the more they are revealing themselves, and the more they are revealing their heart, what's inside of them, right? And you could tell someone is corrupt because their intention of talking and they feel like this is the truth or this is the freedom of speech. I can say whatever that I want. First of all, you can tell like, hey, this person is not really it's not they don't care. It's just they are inside of them, it's just they are miserable, right? They are miserable. That's it. Point
But
blank. Whatever they're gonna say. It's like bringing Trump here. Whatever he's gonna say, man, is just crap.
Hey, Trump had a
but
lot of valid points, man. He had
but
an interesting way of delivering it, but he had a lot of valid points.
Like what? Grabbing them by the
no, we're not choosing just the negative part. He did say a lot of good stuff, to be honest with Trump, he's pretty not linear, but he's transparent. And I rather someone who is transparent than someone who I'm not sure what they're doing. So that's the thing, So
So
some
What
people
was that? What was that?
question for you.
Peekaboo?
Sorry, I brought Trump for a
pick up
reason.
exactly pick up. Some people are like this,
Okay,
they're like that.
let's go. Let's continue on that road with Trump. So you're saying the delivery was wrong, but the points he was making were good,
No,
right?
I didn't say all of the points. What I said, listen to me, just like you're not listening. Listen to me. I said some of the points that he made were valid. That's all I said. Full
Okay.
stop. That's it.
So what about the character of the person?
About his person, I don't know him personally, so I
But
can't judge his character. In all honesty, I only
but
know what
watch
I
this.
see on TV. I only know what has been
So you are
fed to me
just
from
like
media.
To answer to be advocate of Renford now. So one character doesn't necessarily validate that person speaking a valid point or truthfully. That person could be the most evil person and speak something that's truthful or factual. Yeah. So I wouldn't judge someone's sexuality to speak truth, sexuality to speak right, their characteristics to speak the truthful or valid. Anyone can speak something that's valid, regardless if they are criminal, dumb, dungs, didn't go to school.
whoa,
So
whoa, whoa. Sorry, hold on a second. So if I'm hearing you right, Dre, and maybe Ren,
yeah.
Yeah,
so actions and speech they don't go together.
I didn't
So
say
you
they
can
don't
be
go
like
No, no,
the
no.
most. Hold up, you just said it. You can be the
Mm-hmm.
worst, the most evil person, but
Yeah.
hey, sometimes you're gonna say some truth, or you will say some truth, but and then we can disregard your action. Is that what I'm
No,
hearing?
no,
no.
no, no. I'm not disregarding the action. What I'm saying is when he said Trump make a valid speech at time, making that valid speech, the character in itself doesn't. You don't need to know the person's character to know that whatever that point he make is valid. For example, some I come and say, God love all the children of the world, but yes, still I'm not a Christian. I'm not baptized. I don't go to church. But you could say it's valid. You do love all the children of the world, but maybe the crazy stuff that I do in my life, I'm an addict, I drink a lot and I abuse women and all of that stuff. But that point that I make at the end of the day is still valid. But to judge my character now to say, okay, then let's see if I should follow this person. Now, that's a whole different ball game now. I'm not telling someone like a pastor to come and say, follow me, let me lead you guys in this particular way, and then knowing I'm not living the example that I'm trying to set for people to follow me, but to make just to make a point or just to say something out of my mouth, that could be valid. Cause as you said earlier, Gislin, remember whatever you say, you could look at the person, you don't know what they're saying or thinking until they open their mouth. But when he opened his mouth that time, that thing is valid. But regardless of Trump mouth or Obama's mouth, that point was valid. That's all we're trying to say. But to go into the person's character now, that's a whole different ball game because then you're gonna start to judge and all of that stuff.
So I like that because I'm gonna go back to the question Ren just asked about the cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's the reason I don't like the cancel culture is just like they take you at that moment, and sometimes they take out of context things that you said, right? But I think like some people need to be canceled if you look overall what they have been saying and what their action have been,
Mm-hmm.
right?
What would
When I
what would
bring
what it, what
let's say
would
when I
it,
bring Trump, When I bring Trump, the reason I brought Trump is not what he said, just what he said. Yeah, there's some stuff maybe he said they were truthful, but all his life, not all his life, but most of his life, when it comes to even before he became president, before he even became like known for The Apprentice, when he released, he paid a full page on New York, and say we should hang five black people just for the sake of it, without even knowing, without even knowing if they're like innocent or not. Before that, when he was, I mean, his dad gave him like some property, real estate, and he was actually telling his property managers, "We don't need people of colors." His actions, his shows his character. Thank you, the Central Park for Five Board. Thank you, Shen Daro. You see, it shows this guy he didn't change throughout the decades. So for me, that person should be canceled. However, I can bring another person who's very I can bring other people. When you look at them, it's like, hey, maybe that person didn't know what they're talking about, or maybe that's how they grew, and then throughout the years they learn, they got to change, their mindset. And in that, at that time, I would say like this is where the cancel culture should have applied. But there are some people, I'm sorry to say this, like Trump. Dude, you've been saying this, you've been showing your actions, you're not changing. 10 years from now, 20 years, 30 years, he's still doing the same shit.
So I
Oh,
guess
It's not gonna live that
so. The
long.
question is, so then hold up. So if we're saying that his track record has been a certain degree for all these years, who decides who get canceled and who doesn't get canceled? Who determines that? And I think this is the biggest issue of what's going on in society right now in terms of the cancel culture. Who decides?
nobody decides. That's
To,
the
But
thing.
you
People
just said he
saying like,
should be canceled,
so
right? This is your
to, to, to,
opinion.
to, to-
He should be canceled. So who makes that determination?
the same man who made determination about freedom of speech. Since when did we come to know that we need a freedom of speech? To me, some laws are so bizarre. Like, yeah, we need to have a freedom of speech. Wasn't wasn't people speaking before? Like,
Well, but
since
you
when there
gotta
was an
you.
obstruction that come
Well,
into play
but we have to
first?
remember the legislation, right? So when we're talking about both the Charter of Rights and Freedoms for Canada and the Constitution of America, now freedom of speech is actually supposed to be garnered towards the government. You have the right to speak out against how your government is dealing with the citizens, and you have the right to peaceful protest. But that same freedom of right that you have against, or freedom of speech against the government, is not the same individual to individual.
Yeah,
So that's what I'm
but
saying. So now, if we're saying that, as Giselin's saying, certain people should be canceled, who gets to determine who gets canceled and who stays on? That is the ultimate question that I want to know.
okay, I'm gonna rephrase a little bit. I didn't say they should be. I mean, they should be canceled, but I would understand the cancel culture, right? So who decide?
Yeah.
Honestly, one thing, I'm gonna go back to Dave Chappelle. He said he doesn't give a f because he knows on Twitter he's gonna be canceled or whatever.
Yeah, but
The
that's Dave Chappelle, who's already making millions of dollars, and he has an ability to be able to be canceled, still go on tour and make money. You, myself, Andre, we might not have that luxury, right? So if we get canceled, it's going to have a different effect on us than him. So he cannot care.
It's
Other
not he
people need
cannot
to
care.
care.
He's aware of his doing. He's being aware of of who he is. He's been good in his shoes. Remember how he walked out of a $50 million contract,
Hmm.
but now years later he came back. He got 120
Yeah,
million.
because he's Dave Chappelle and he has a
It's not
talent.
even because his dish
Of
when
course it is.
I mean he is, but when
You know how
he
many other like entertainers have walked away from deals or got canceled from things and they end up
50
hit?
mil, 50
I'm
mil,
not saying maybe I'm not even
when
talking that high,
50
but
mil,
again,
come on.
no,
again,
but
watch this.
I'm
Again,
saying
watch it.
what my point
Sorry,
is
yeah.
that there's other people, if we want to look at the entertainment stream, who have spoken out against things, lost their platform, hit rock bottom, have never been able to resurface, and we've never seen them again. Dave Chappelle is a totally different individual because he has such a talent that he's able to rebuild himself.
But that's what I'm sorry. this is you asked earlier about consequences of our speech,
Right.
and that's what I've been saying from the beginning. You have to know what to say, the right time, the space. You need to read that. There are some people, and I'm gonna come back to my other point is these people when they get. Let's forget about. I know what you're doing. Let's
What am
veer
I doing,
away. No,
Ghislaine?
no, no. Let's veer away from the art, like celebrities. Let's talk about people who maybe say something on Twitter, on whatever, and then they get canceled. Maybe they lose their jobs, right?
Right.
Is that person when they're saying that? Like, there's some stuff when you say maybe when you're a teenager, I feel like, okay, you're a teenager, you're still discovering your identity, But the other stuff you say when you're in your 20s, 30s, you should know better. So don't act like you're surprised if you are maybe the cancel culture or people go on Twitter and say, "Hey, we the people," as Donna is saying, we the people like we don't feel comfortable. If I have one of my coworker right now, go on Twitter and say some stuff like maybe against against black people. Hey, why wouldn't like he chose or she chose to go on social media to say that? Well, why do I feel like do I at that point do I feel comfortable working with that person?
Okay, so let me ask you this question. Let me flip it because this is just what I like
Sorry,
to
I'll
do.
let Andrea speak
I'm
because
gonna let Jay speak in a minute, but I like the juice of this conversation right here. All right, so let's say now you're saying that that person in your work should be canceled, right? You shouldn't have to work with them, right? That's your claim. They have said something that's really outlandish and just outrageous. So now, what happens if your work doesn't do anything to cancel them? They still have to be there. You've already indicated that you can't work with that person. Are you quitting?
I'm not quitting. I love my bread, but I'm starting looking for another job.
All right.
Or put pressure. You can also. This is the thing. I always tell people. Also put pressure on them as well. Maybe go on social media. Hey, this is the thing. A lot of companies right now they are so scared of.
Bad publicity.
Yes, when you call them out on social media, I'll give you a little quick example. Something that happened to me when DoorDash came to Ottawa. I made an order. I was in Ottawa for breakfast. By the way, I got the message that the breakfast was ready. Someone picked it up. 20 minutes. Sorry, 20 minutes later, it showed me the driver was still driving. Dude, I don't live in the GTA area. I live in Ottawa. This is not a big place. 40 minutes later, the driver was still driving, not dropping my order. I don't know where it was driving. I tried to call DoorDash. Their phone was not ringing. You know what I did? I went straight on Twitter. Let me tell you, within 5 minutes, someone on Twitter was like, "Hey, we are sorry for this. Can we talk in private?" And that shows you the power of how, you can. I'm not telling you guys to do it with your
You can
employer,
apply
but
pressure.
you can also do, you can put some pressure. And so many companies, they want to look, they have a face to save, right? So you can use that as well. If it doesn't work, look for another job, man. That's it.
To be honest, I share some sentiment with that Jason is saying in that sense where I will never ever ever. To be honest, I don't think it's only Dave Chappelle who have morals. You know what I mean? To say, okay, walk away from this,
Well,
bro.
I
I
hope
walk
not.
away from anything on earth, like except my wife. Is easily. I would never walk away
I'm
from her
good.
so easily. But other than that, for example, job work, bro. I'm selling my hands are service just like oh they go in the grocery store and buy stuff, and that what people forget sometime. Like for example, you go to the work, you think you the boss you how you put it you owe the boss man something. No, it's a two-way stream. Just like how you go buy his grocery, he need you to work too. You can go somewhere else and work. You're selling your labor. We are the CEO of ourselves, but we refuse to see that part. So that's why I was saying earlier about the whole free speech. Like, who create that? You're saying it's towards the government. So am I getting up talking to the government every day? Can I oppose the government boldly and stand up in front of the government? No. Does that happen? No. Might as well say freedom of hearing, freedom of breathing, freedom of inhaling through your nose, whatever it is. Just so they create that. So I just think that these man-made rules and man-made laws sometimes cause a lot of confusion. And that's why I think the leaders of this world lead by confusing people. Because to create something like that is so bizarre, like freedom of speech, Black Lives Matters. You mean you didn't know it matters before? So it's 2010, someone come up and think, oh, miraculous, Black Lives Matters. No, man, these things were there from beginning in the nature of time where you're supposed to express yourself, you express yourself. Government is just as fake too. It's like a big illusion, just like Christmas and Santa Claus. If we're gonna be real, we are realistic. So for someone to be penalized, anybody at all to be penalized about what they say and cancel this person and cancel that person, to be honest, all of that is just like garbage, and people just trying to have power over other people to cancel them from doing what they want to do, to be honest with you. Because if we can't, if the earth is for all of us to multiply and replenish and all this stuff, it's also to enjoy. And if I'm enjoying it by expressing myself this way, that way, it shouldn't. If again, if someone is offended, sorry, speaking the truth, I'll respect your space, but I don't offend your way. But all this stuff, man, to be honest, is like a big nonsense. Some people get caught up with the job. Like, would you lose your job? Yeah, I will lose my job. Like, there's not a job too. Did you have that job forever? No. So it doesn't matter. So it's not to be necessary freedom of speech that make you want to lose a job. It could just be something uncomfortable at your workplace. Even with, like, for example, the vaccine. Oh, you don't take the vaccine, you're gonna lose your job. Fine. There's other employers who out there who is not stressing about it, just saying, right? So as Justin said, you can apply pressure too sometime to the authority or whosoever it is, but you just have to just apply it and just don't be, or you put it, don't care about the consequences. At the end of the day, I was defending me. I am a CEO of who or what? My company. What's your company? Myself. I sell my labor, so I am the CEO of that. But guess what happens? Sometimes this is life, same way. When you go to an interview, that's your best chance to tell the boss man or whatever. You see, at that time, it's like he's listening to you at the table, listening, looking, and but yes, if you go with your intention clear and know, okay, this is what I want, this is what I want, this, and you tell him in the interview, you think he can wait till you come, like you get the job, then after you change and you be like, oh, no, 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 we can't do that. But the fact that you make it clear from the first impression, because first impression is last. The fact that we do that, you can tell him from the jump, this is what I want, this is what I intended. He's gonna make up his mind to know, yeah, this guy's a serious guy. Because at the end of the day, he know what he wants and he's coming for what he wants. But some people go in the interview thinking it's like this. I need a job so bad, so I'm just gonna be quiet. He doesn't know what you want or what you're about. And when you get the job now and then you start to get some treatment, you start to question why this, that, but you didn't talk in the beginning. So sometimes we need to learn to just talk up and stop worrying about the consequences, what will happen from speaking truthfully or just expressing myself as a human. You know, I that's just my take on the whole freedom thing, man. It's just bogus, to be honest with you.
I hear you, man. That was I felt that. That was really heartfelt, Andre.
I like that, Andre. One thing that I'm gonna add, we're talking about. We can forget about a little bit about the cancel culture, but we're talking about freedom of speech and workplace. It's funny how we use all this social media to talk, express ourselves, but those same social medias, we're talking about Facebook, for example, they have some most of their employees signing NDAs, and whenever they talk about what's going on, which is freedom of speech, first of all, they label them whistleblower.
Whistleblower.
You
Here's
see,
another one too.
whistleblower.
Yeah.
And there are so many ways legally to try to cancel them, which is the cancel culture, by the way. But
Yes and no, a little bit less than that because those platforms are privileges, right? They're not rights. They like you choose to go on Twitter, you choose to go on Facebook, you choose to go on Instagram, Snapchat, and if you want to use those, there's certain things that you have to abide by, and if you don't, then they can remove you, and those are all there in the
I
disclaimers.
mean, I'm not talking about the free. I mean, what the choice of what you put there. But the thing is, you were earlier talking about social media, like social media or the media. Now, let's not hide our faces. Now, most of these big companies like Facebook, Google, Twitter, they have much power compared to the regular uh, traditional media that we know, right?
For sure, they
So
have more
now,
pull. They
if
have
I
more
am,
pull and more reach.
they have more reach and more power. Because if I go on Twitter today and I say let's cancel Ren, I'm gonna get more tweets. I'm gonna get more like visibility compared if I go on CTV. CTV, first of all, they'll be like, "Who's red?" No offense to you,
First of all,
you know.
CTV knows who I am.
No
I
offense to
don't I
you,
don't want you to put that on me like that.
right?
CTV
No,
knows who I
Gotcha.
am, and I know who
but
they are.
my point is this, Ren. Like this is what I'm saying is that they are willing to be the vehicle, right? They're willing to be the vehicle of people expressing themselves, but when they have some of the employees, especially I'm talking about social media, especially trying to uh, put outside what's going on, like what's going on internally, how they are sending out data, how they've been, lying and all that stuff about our data, like our own data, like location. It's crazy how they are selling them. Then that employee, I mean, they're using their freedom of speech to say what's going on. But now all of a sudden, the freedom of speech doesn't apply to them. Do you understand what I'm saying? It applies to people who are in the vehicle, the passengers, but it doesn't apply
Apply
to the money,
to
like to the, yeah, to
the
the guy
driver,
driving or the
driving,
one
yeah,
who made the car.
the
So
government.
here we go. So it's kind of like it's a two ways. Like the freedom of speech should apply to everybody, to every company, whether you are big or not, whether you pay your taxes. I mean, they're not paying the taxes. It's another issue. But hey, but you see, it's
Uh,
and that's it for me.
Aye,
you
man.
know,
Juliana Leo's up in here saying, "Be ready for the consequences. No job, no money. No money, no food, no roof over your head." So
There we
those are
go.
real consequences for speaking up or speaking out of turn or challenging the powers that be. Listen, I'm going to call it a night, gentlemen. Andre Gislaine, Andre, what are your last words for the night? What do you want people to be left with?
to be honest, just feel free to express oneself. Don't feel obligated or feel barricade in expressing what one truly feel. Be yourself at the end of the day, and once you're being yourself, you can't go wrong. Don't try to be anybody else, but be you. And whatever that is, it's up to you to find out what that is. So maybe just be true to yourself and not to the government and society and the system. True to you.
Gislaine,
I would say speak your truth, but always ask yourself, what's the is it gonna impact the society, or is it just gonna make me, is it just gonna make you or make me like, make my head bigger, like, because I am right. you know just think about that. Read the room, and always be open when you're having conversation about anything. Be open to receive and to learn, and don't be like an empty barrel.
ladies and gentlemen, this is another session of Join the Chat. I mean, we're talking about freedom of speech. Just always remember that freedom of speech is not without consequences, it's not without responsibility. So, whatever it is that you're going to say, wherever it is that you're going to say it at, just try to figure out what those consequences will be beforehand before you say anything. And as SEB says in the chat here today, and I want to leave on this note, let us all learn from each other respectfully. This is another session to Join the Chat. Make sure you check us out on our YouTube channel, like, subscribe, share, view some of our past episodes. This is the place where every single opinion is important, where your voice matters, where we try to encourage you to express yourself, and we offer a free and open platform to speak and also to be heard. Juliana Leal is saying, listen to learn, don't listen to speak.
Thank you,
Good
Another
Julian.
point.
episode of
Good point.
JTC. Another episode of JTC, and we're out. One love, all.